Well, good day, everyone. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of April. It feels like the 27th, Johnny.
It always feels like about 5 days after we've started.
It does, yeah. So we're smashing out the interviews to all of our viewers this week and the next and leading up to the election because, as a lot of people are saying, as they say at every election, Joel Jammal, that this is probably the most important election in our history, but I think each one gets more important. Welcome
That
to
is
the
true.
show, mate.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I think that's because everyone that says that the election's on, they have a stake in it going their way. That's why they say that. So
Okay, but look, we're seeing a lot of crazy stuff going on at the moment. The preference arrangements from trumpeter patriots in Monash in particular has been a bit of a shock, and we've been talking to Sue Ellen Wrightson in the hope that she will come onto a program with Russell Broadbent. She's aware of the situation, and they're doing everything they can to correct it. But I'd like her to tell us how on earth that happened in the first place, if it's been the wrong choice and why they have to change it.
well, I just got a press release from them, which was leaked to me early from one of the candidates. And basically they said that they were infiltrated and someone did the preferences for them in these areas. Mind you, this is after days of them defending it. Days. Now, the candidates are good people, but I don't trust HQ. I don't trust the Trumpets HQ. And I haven't said anything on this, but I think they're just going to level with people and be honest. And I don't trust them on this. They're like, we're going to conduct a thorough investigation. And it's like, guys, this is why people are disconnecting from politics because they're sick of this crap. I don't know why they were putting Teals ahead of Dutton. I don't know why they were putting, Freedom Party people after, left wing party people. It shouldn't have happened. Russell Broadbent was a good man. He was a good incumbent member of parliament from the Liberals that was kicked out of the Liberals because he couldn't get pre-selected. And he was there for decades and they kicked him out. And the idea that you wouldn't put him first was astonishing, let alone after some left-wing parties. It's like, how do you stuff that up
Yeah.
and defend it for days? And then part of their original thing, Graham, was they were saying, it's too complicated to understand. They defended this.
Mm.
Anyway, look, all this stuff is, by the way, it's just by the side. It's frankly irrelevant, this stuff. This is just more of the same, sort of stuff which is why people are switching off.
Mm.
And this is not going to help get the country back on track.
Exactly right. It isn't, and it's pretty hard to imagine how you can screw something like that up because the players involved are astute. We've got a lot of time for Sue Ellen Wrightson. We spent a lot of time talking with her as she was Ralph Babbitt's chief of staff. She's a lovely lady, incredible, and integrity plus. But one has to ask the question again, where does Clive Palmer really sit and what's he doing, what he's doing for? Um, I'm just a voter like anybody else, and I've got my question marks. I don't want to raise them, but I have to.
Well,
Yeah.
look, Hoodie, I've got to say, could you imagine this happening to Jared Rennick? Could you imagine that, preferences are being sorted out and he doesn't know anything about it? I mean, I don't buy it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I agree with you. Look, it is all by the wayside. But look, at the end of the day, what it signals to me is the real issue and the culture of these places. Because I mean, if you are going to preference teals and people that haven't done the right thing by Australia, then that tells you a lot about the head honchos. Um, they have to take responsibility for it. I mean, they've acted poorly. They've acted against the nation's interests here. I mean, they've essentially, uh, you know, could be. I'm not saying they will, but I mean, it could come down to a handful of votes in Monash.
Yeah. Guys, look, I just came out with my how to vote cards on the weekend, and we had, no one does it perfectly. No one does it perfectly. We had at first, these are all the errors that came up. At first, the Bs weren't coming up. on our website at tpaust.com.au. The bees weren't coming up in terms of the electorates. So people contacted me. We went and fixed it straight away. We said, yep, you're right. Thank you for bringing it up. And we fixed it. In another electorate, there was a glitch with our what we were doing. For some reason, a marijuana party candidate was ahead of the Liberals in one seat, and we don't consider the marijuana party as a freedom party, so we put them after the Libs, and that's so we amended that straight away. But the point is, these things were fixed within 3 hours. 3 hours. There was none of this 4 days of justifying why Russell Broadbent and other, these cards were screwed up. I mean, how slow is this machine that Clive's operating? And again, I'm not here to say, oh, therefore you should vote One Nation or this or that. Guys, there's 8 freedom parties running in this election. But this was the big outlier with regards to how preferences were done. And by the way, Clive Palmer, he said that he's coming out with brand new how to vote cards and he's, sending them off to be reprinted. What about the Senate? The Senate for the Trumpets of Patriots was one of the worst how to vote cards out of all the freedom parties. And how do I know this? Because I went through all the how to vote cards from all the freedom parties and the major parties and the left-wing parties. And the Trumpet of Patriots were not backing freedom parties. It's just not what the Senate had them for. So I went to the crazy length of actually generating these graphics, which actually show you exactly how they did them. And guys, it's quite shocking. I mean, for example, in Tasmania, the way that the preferences flow in Tasmania with the recommendations that the Trumpets did, Pauline Hanson's daughter is running in Tasmania, if some of you didn't know this. And the way that the Trumpet of Patriots had it, and I might just quickly bring this up on the screen since I've got it. Oh, forgive me, I can't bring it up with that plugged in. The Trumpet of Patriots had one Trumpet of Patriots, 2 Jackie Lambie network. Jackie Lambie. They had 3 Libertarian, which are great. Then they've done Liberal, then they've done Labor, and then they've done the Citizens Party. So there's no One Nation. There's no some of these other minor right parties like the Shooters Party. They completely cut One Nation out, which were the lead party to win that seat in Tasmania. And it was Pauline Hanson's own daughter running in Tasmania. How do you screw that up?
Well, is it a screw up or is there something behind it? I mean, the question needs to be asked. Let's, we don't have anything to lose in asking the question. We're just citizens like everyone else out there who's starting to become a little bit jaded around the edges with all of this. We have a great chance, Joel, even by the measure of the mainstream media, who are starting to make comments like people are fed up with the uni party and the freedom parties are going to do pretty well in this election. But they'll only do well if they stop screwing up. And the last election, the votes were divided. It was just crazy. And we're seeing Jared Rennick's actually brought a whole lot of stability into the freedom side of the election, the way I see it, by getting parties together and working with them. And that's what these guys need to do. It's just staggering, Johnny.
Yeah, well, look, look, as far as I'm concerned, Hoodie, they can't be trusted. Um, I mean, just call it as it is. I mean, I've seen nothing from Trumpet of Patriots thus far, which has led me to have any confidence in what's going on there. I mean, if they can't get the back of house right in relation to this stuff, then it tells you a lot about what we can expect if any of them get elected. Um, and it is a real concern. I mean, even Ralph Babette, um, he might be on side, but this is a guy that doesn't get involved in estimates. Let's remember. I mean, not dissimilar to Pauline. They're not really functioning as they should. And I like Ralph Babette, but look, at the end of the day, it's not good enough. I mean, these people have been elected. They should be in there fighting in estimates, like Jared and Malcolm, Alex Ante. That's their job.
Yeah.
Let's find out how many times they've been in there, and I think you'll find it's not. They're not smashing it out of the park, I can tell you.
Well, I got to tell you, from my perspective, um, I think Ralph Babette's more focused on American politics than he is on Australian politics, and I wish that weren't true. And every interaction I've had with Ralph has been less than satisfying, and that's the honest truth. Um, I've walked away wondering whether his heart's really in this or whether it's just a way of promoting himself to sell real estate in the future. I don't know. I don't know. But it's time for honesty, and it's time for us to be upfront and authentic. I'm sharing my feelings from what I've known over the last few years and who we've had dealings with. And, I have great respect for Malcolm Roberts. I have immense respect for Jared Rennick, Alex Antic, and Craig Kelly. Craig Kelly is an impressive human being. He has done his research and he speaks common sense. And this is what we need. And imagine in Monash, any of the other candidates in Monash beating Russell Broadbent. Let's imagine that they did. He's got a quarter of a century of experience. He knows where all the bodies are buried. I was talking to some people in his electorate this morning, great people who are pouring their heart and soul into supporting him. And they said it's crazy. Any of the other candidates have already got a handicap when they go in there because they don't have what Russell's got. Russell should be re-elected in Monash.
100%.
End of story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And look, let's kick the can down the road a bit further. I mean, look what happened with this recent fiasco with the class action involving Dr. Mel McCann. Now, that was an unfortunate result, and I don't think we need to go into the analysing of what went wrong there or what the obstacles were. But at the end of the day, Clive Palmer has had Mel McCann front and centre at his Tucker Carlson event. From what I've known, he's been publicly backing her in relation to this uh, uh, class action. And now I'm hearing stories, I don't know whether they're true, that this poor lady who's put her entire career on the line to fight for Australians over this COVID madness as a doctor in relation to this class action is now apparently looking at possibly selling her home to pay these legal costs. Now, this is a bloke, Clive Palmer, who wants to build Titanics by Adolf Hitler's car. Well, why isn't he helping her out?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, in all of this, but we have what we have, Joel, and what we have at the moment is a lot of people. There are two big questions in the electorate, the way I see it at the moment. One is we need to look at the way the parties preference in order to find out what their real character is. It's an indication of their character. The other thing is a lot of people, especially those who are scrutineers. I was at an event at the weekend in my own electorate talking with some great people who are awake to what's going on. A lot of them were scrutineers at the last election, and they said, and everybody's saying this, you've heard it, Joel, there are two piles of ballots put together, and everyone's wondering what happens to the preferences because you've got two piles, it seems to be Labor and Liberal, and they're not interested in any votes for the Freedom Party. So there's a couple of questions there, Joel, that we'd really love you to help us get our heads around.
Yeah, look, I nipped that in the bud last election because my mum was actually one of the Electoral Commission trainers. So she actually trained people to be the counters. Now, there are multiple counts of these ballots. On the night of the election, in order for the media to have their big fanfare and, oh, this guy won it or that guy won it, what they do is they do a very preliminary count. Now, for this count, they don't do the Topher Field marbles video where the vote flows. That's not what they do. They look at who is higher on the ballot on this particular ballot that's in front of me. If Liberal is higher than Labor, then it goes in the Liberal pile. If Labor is higher than Liberal, then it goes into the Labor pile. Now, the reason they do that is not because they're cheating the minor parties on the left or the right, because again, this affects the tills too, guys. The reason they do this is so that on the night, usually what happens is the most likely winner of the lower house seats, not the Senate, the lower house seats, is the Labor or Liberal Party. Now, that's why they do it on the night. Now, sometimes what happens, and this has happened many times before, in the first count, they say, oh, it goes to this major party, the Liberal Party. And then as they do the second and third and fourth count, that actually changes. That actually ends up being, you know what? It was actually this independent that won it. And so a lot of what we saw in the last few state elections and federal elections is it takes days, sometimes weeks, for the final count to come through where it's official. With the Senate, for example, it takes like 5 to 6 weeks to get the final result where all the preference flows are done. So don't, keep your emotions in check on the night. Just keep in the back of your mind. This is why we train scrutineers. It's so that you guys can be in the room and actually watching the counts and asking electoral commission workers, why are you doing it this way and why not that way? Where you can watch. Now that's why I think that when a lot of people hear these claims online, they don't understand. But I actually have the Electoral Commission manual. It's either next to me or it's over in the corner over there, where it explains this is the initial preliminary count that happens. But in the second and third count that gets done after, they do a proper preference flow.
No, that's great. That makes a lot of common sense to me. I can see how that works. So people need to understand it because a lot of people are disenfranchised. And once again, we've got to be educated in this process. Johnny.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Joel, just on that point, given the fact that your mother was so close to the counting, do you have confidence that the counting and the controls, the governance that's in place is giving a fair result? I mean, I suppose people have been questioning that because of the American situation. And, I think Karen Fox raised it in one of the interviews in the last few days. Well, if we thought that the vote was being tampered with, why was the voice unsuccessful?
Exactly. I mean, they threw $500 million at the voice referendum. They wanted to win that. And that when I saw that result came in, I thought, I knew it. I knew our vote counted. And that's the thing. They try to beat us down. They try to demoralize us. They don't want us to vote. And that's why we have to turn out and vote. And so, look, when it comes to the electoral system, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it better from the American than the Americans one? Oh, by miles. Australia is the envy of the world with regards to how we run the elections. The only problem I see is at the front end of it, not the back end, the counting. Don't get me wrong, we need to tighten up things a bit more with the counting, but the biggest problems are actually in the front end. When you like mail-in ballots, I don't think we should be doing mail-in ballots. The good thing is our mail-in ballots are better than the American system. In America, they were doing mass mail-out ballots where if you're elected to roll to vote and enrolled to vote, everyone would get a ballot. Now that's not what we have here. If you put your name down and your address specifically, that mail-out ballot will go directly to your house. So people can't just go and find, your ballot unless, they could go to 100 houses and only find a mail-in ballot at 13 or something. However, at the front end of the when you put your vote in, that's where the problems lie because we don't show ID. That's the big problem. So I've had people in my audience over the last 8 elections at a local, state, or federal level. They've contacted me and said, Joel, I went to my polling place to vote, and they said my name was already ticked off. And that's where problems are. It's at the initial part of the actual of the vote. Now, that didn't mean those people couldn't vote. They did a vote. They said, look, we're going to sign a declaration vote, which is a special vote where you have to sign, put your name on it so you go on record. But generally speaking, the Australian Electoral Commission run a very tight ship. When they do every night at the polling places, they get all the ballots and they basically put seals on them with unique codes, and then they send them to, I think in Sydney, they send them to the ICC Centre. They send them to different counting centres in the state. So there's a there's a chain of custody of those ballots by that seal. You've got people's names that are actually, those ballots are in their custody. They are responsible legally for the safety of those ballots. They're not allowed to take them home. They have to go directly to the ICC Centre or whichever the Electoral Commission place is. So I don't worry about the after part. It's more what goes into the system. Because once you vote and put your name on a ballot and you put it in, we can't track it. And the problem is there are people that are voting that either, they're not getting their ID checked, That's where we need to focus our improvement. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. Can it be improved? Absolutely. But is it miles better than the Americans? Absolutely. It's too big to rig, as the Americans would say in Australia. They can't rig it big enough in Australia to win a referendum. And so I'm really not that worried as much in Australia about it. And if you are worried, you should become a scrutineer, should put your name down and should get off your ass, frankly, rather than leave a comment on Graham's videos or my videos and say, it's rigged. It's like, well, that's great, but that means you're lazy. You're not doing something and getting active to save your country. So people actually need to actually engage. Everything they need is on the Turning Point website. Everything. Training, how to vote cards, what do the parties stand on? How do you actually be a scrutineer? How do you hand out a how to vote card? We've literally done everything. The only thing holding ourselves back is us.
All right, Joel. What do we need to know going into this election from your perspective? You've got all the data. You've collected all the information that we need. Take us on a journey of how we approach this election. Who do you think the main players are? How are they faring? Give us a rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a lot of people may have seen this particular graphic go around. This shows you the basically who the parties are on the in the freedom parties in step one. And the idea of it is when you go and vote, you want to put these particular parties first. Now, why on earth would you put those particular parties first? Well, what I've got for you here, guys, this is called the policy matrix. Now, you can't see it in high definition here, but you can see it at tpaust.com.au. What we've done is we've gone across 30 different questions on ethics, energy, health, education, economics, democracy, and defense. And we've gone to every single freedom party and left-wing party and major party, and we've polled them, and we've basically seen what their answers are. So what I've gone and done is I've actually gotten my team in each state, and I've said, guys, this is where the parties stand. I need you to go research who the candidates are, who are the fake teals, who are the major parties, what is their voting record like, and I need you to vote number these ballots in a way that my audience can appreciate and understand. And so we've taken that data, we've followed that that rule that we've got here, which is freedom parties first, then Liberal National, then Labor, the Greens, and the Teals. And we've basically generated how to vote cards as a result of that. And that's what these end up looking like. So this is for my area of Parramatta. You have the green ballot, which is for the left, for the lower house. And then you've got the Senate at the bottom, which shows you exactly how to vote for the Senate in New South Wales. Now, the reason why we do that is you want the freedom parties to go first because it gives them the best chance of actually winning a seat. Then after that, you put the Liberal National Party. And the reason you do that is so that the votes don't flow to Labor or the Greens or the Teals. And then we put the crazy socialists and communists and the Teals and Labor last. So we've done all of that thinking in the cards. So you can pretty much know, I trust Joel, I trust his team, I trust the research they've done. I'm going to basically outsource this to Joel. So I've been doing this for 9 elections now in the last 4 years. So we have a very well seasoned team in each state. We've fought local elections, state elections, and we stake our credibility every time on these cards. And if there's any problems at all, I want you to email me at elections@tpaust.com.au. We've already dealt with many problems, as I mentioned earlier, where there's been glitches in the how to vote cards. But basically, we're about giving people more information. We're giving you a template. So you might see this how to vote card, for example, and you might say, yep, Joel, I understand it. But you know what? I might put this Freedom Party first and not that Freedom Party. The same for the Senate. We're backing the coalition in New South Wales, being the Libertarian Party, the Hart Party, and Gerard Rennick first, then One Nation, and then the other freedom parties. Maybe you're like, maybe I want to do One Nation first, and then the coalition ticket for the Libertarians or whatever. It's totally up to you. But the most important thing to understand is we have followed very strictly this particular graphic with freedom parties first. You can move whichever freedom party you want first on our cards, then Liberal National, so we don't risk a Labor government again. and then Labor, Greens, and Teals. And so I just want to very much put that research out there so people can make up their own mind, but also see if you trust us, that's how we do it.
Joel, are you able to bring up New England for me?
New England? Yeah, sure. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Graham, have you checked it yet?
No, I've only just gotten back from the States, so I'm catching up on everything, but I'll be
Oh,
checking.
I didn't know that. No wonder you've got a fire in your belly, Graham. Oh.
Why's that, Joel? Because I've eaten all that American food.
Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it live on camera so you guys can see exactly what's up. All right. So what you do is you go to tpaust.com.au, click download a how to vote card, which is that red button.
Yep.
We're going to go to the electorate of New England. That's Barnaby Joyce, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
And then we click download the card, and that's come up with this how to vote card. So what we've got, if we go nice and close, is we've got number 1, Family First, Holly Masters, great candidate. Then we've got number 2, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, Brent Larkham. Then we've got number 3, Trumpet of Patriots, Todd Charles. And in this particular seat, the Liberals aren't running. It's the Nationals that are running.
Yep.
And they have basically gone for a Barnaby Joyce again. He's the candidate. Then number 5, we've got an independent. I think it's a Teal off the top of my head, Natasha Ledger, but I'd have to double check that. And then number 6, Laura Hughes for Labor. And then number 7, we put the Greens last, Wendy Wales. So that's typically how it works.
Beautiful.
And then for the Senate, for the upper house, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the Freedom Party coalition, the Libertarians, the Heart Party, and Jared Rennick as one. Then we've got number 2, One Nation, number 3, Family First for Lyle Sheldon, number 4, the Australian Christians, number 5, Trumpet of Patriots, and number 6, Liberal National. So the votes don't flow to Labor. So that's very foolproof sort of way.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll all be there's a committee around our electorate who are getting organised for the big day, and they'll be printing those out and handing them out.
Oh, phenomenal! That's awesome.
That's great stuff. So the Australian Christians, tell us about them.
Yeah, look, they just got their first member of parliament, I do believe, elected to WA, Marika Grenwald, who's an absolute spear thrower. She's a lovely lady in WA. And she's running a different candidate there, but she just got elected to the upper house in WA. So she's there for 4 years. But they're running for the federal election now as well. And so they're running in WA and in New South Wales. They're probably stronger in WA than New South Wales. But we've got some great candidates in New South Wales as well. I mean, we're kind of spoilt for choice with the Senate at the moment.
Wonderful stuff. Johnny.
Yeah, Joel, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on what happened in the Werriwa situation with Dutton. Do you think he was ultimately the instigator of that, or do you think it's a case of Susan Ley or Angus Taylor throwing in a grenade so that perhaps they can take a run in 4 years' time?
I assume you mean Ben Britton and Whitlam?
Yeah, Whitlam, sorry, yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, Whitlam, it's just south of the Illawarra guys. There's some great people down there like Dr. Philip Boltman. So it's a beautiful electorate. It's a safe Labor seat, 65% Labor, but it's a safe no seat. So I think about 65% voted no in the referendum. So you could actually win that seat. Now, Ben Britton was a Liberal candidate that was running there, and then some comments he said on this show got him basically disendorsed by the Liberal Party. They said that, him saying women in front role combat roles is a very controversial thing to say. He shouldn't say that. Whereas that's what Andrew Hastie believes, and that's what the late, great Jim Molan also believed. And the problem is they disendorsed him in the middle of an election when he was looking like he was about to win that seat. So a lot of people like me are like, hang on, why did you disendorse him when he's just about to win that seat? The timing of this looks highly suspect. And so, look, there are some things I can't say on this yet, but I think time will reveal it after the election, because if Dutton loses this, and I suspect he will, the knives will be out for Dutton, and whoever becomes the Liberal leader, I think they were very close to what happened to Ben Britton. And I'm very much interested to see if Susan Ley or if Angus Taylor or if both of them were behind this, essentially. Angus Taylor, you may not know him, he's the treasurer, nice hair, and Susan Ley's seen as the radical left wing person in the Liberal Party, like a Malcolm Turnbull sort of person. So yeah,
Well,
it's
Angus
a
Taylor's
shame.
he's also the brother-in-law of Bronnie Taylor, who was
Oh,
Brad Hazard's understudy in the upper house in New South Wales. She was the regional health minister that was hot on mandates and vaccines for health workers.
all right. Yeah, no, I think that Angus Taylor has played it safe. He's playing by the old statesman rules and he doesn't want to get his hands dirty and actually help people. And I think that the guy really needs to understand that if he had any role in getting Ben Britton out, there's going to be a lot of people that continue to resign from the Liberals. I mean, people were very annoyed. There were former veterans that left the Liberal Party after they saw how they treated Ben Britton.
How many members do these parties have, Joel? The two majors. Have you got any idea how many members of the Liberals and Labor?
Yeah, I'm not meant to know this, but in New South Wales, the Liberals had 13,000 members. Now they got like 6,000.
Wow.
Over the course of COVID, they lost so many.
Wonder why.
Wonder what.
Look, part of it is good people like us have left it. And again, we all used to be in the Liberal Party and we left it. But the problem is they're also restricting new signups. They don't want people like us joining as well. And the reason they do that is if you have a smaller amount of people as members in the party, it's easier to manipulate the votes and get around. And so, I mean, we saw this with Alex Antic in South Australia. He tried to sign up 1,000 new members or something that were Christians and happened to be from churches. And the Liberal Party down there, they really did fight it. But there was such a wave of signups that they couldn't stop them all. And I think that's really important. I think we do need to be members of political parties. I think that there's nothing wrong with being a member of the Liberal Party and then voting for people like Alex Antic in pre-selection so that he runs in the election. And then when the election comes around, if you're not happy with the Liberal Party, you can vote for a minor party. You know, that's there's actually nothing stopping you from doing that. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes good sense. Johnny.
Yeah, well, what do you think about Matt Camonzuli? What are his chances in Blackout Bowen's seat?
Yeah, look, Bowen's seat's an interesting seat, you know. He's one of the only MPs in the country that voted for the Voice, which was against what his electorate voted for. His electorate actually voted no. They also voted against same-sex marriage, and he was one of the only MPs, I meant to say, that voted against same-sex marriage as well. So his electorate are sick of him. They don't like him cozying up to in the climate sort of lobby stuff. They are looking for something new, and the polling and the betting odds are looking good for Matthew Camonzuli. Again, if Matthew Camonzuli wins that, like the level of political upset would be huge. And I know he needs volunteers right now. But yeah, Matthew Camonzuli, we are backing him as the lead candidate in that seat. We think, you know, he really took care of me personally during the lockdown period on a personal level with regards to when police were after me and everything. He was a great guy. And he's the guy that took Scott Morrison to court when Scott Morrison ran over the members' rights in the Liberal Party. And he's the one that fought against the captain's picks last federal election. We're getting old, guys. You know, this is our second election we covered. And so it's funny. I'll speak for myself maybe. So it's funny looking at Matthew Camonzuli now taking on the major parties, and he might actually win that seat. It's quite hilarious.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned about the people helping him, Joel. I mean, so they can get in touch with his team, obviously. It might be an idea for us to search on how to do that. But at this stage, it looks like I will probably be going up to Sydney to help Matt Camanzuli on the day to hand out because I think that is a really important thing to do up there. I mean, he has been a great Australian and a great warrior in relation to COVID, and I think he'll make an outstanding member of Parliament. And let's remember, he was also on the state executive of the Liberal Party. So, I mean, it's wonderful to have that that battle experience from within there to assist everyone else going forward. So, I really do hope he does become successful. And I've said to Hoodie, I think it'll be a case of remembering where you were on that day. When Bob Hawke said, you're a bum if you don't um, give your workers the day off when we won the America's Cup, when the Olympics were announced. Well, I think it'll be the same when Matt Camanzuli beats Blackout Bowen. People will remember where they were on that day.
I remember where I was the day Johnny Larder made his coming out video. I remember where I was, Johnny.
Where were where were you?
I can't tell you, but it involved paperwork after a short sit on a throne. Well, we've got no class at all, Joel. We have no class.
I was going to say, you've raised a great point there, John. There's actually some really winnable seats in New South Wales. I mean, New South Wales, I consider it the swing state per se. The amount of money and battleground seats that are set to change, the most are happening in New South Wales. I mean, you've mentioned Camanzuli's, which is in Western Sydney, McMahon. So if you're in Sydney, volunteering there is a phenomenal idea. If you're anywhere south of Sydney, like more than an hour south of Sydney, I would say go and vote for Ben Britton, which is in Whitlam. And if you're anywhere more than an hour north of Sydney, I would say go to Stuart Bonds, who could actually win the Hunter Valley. That guy got 21% of the vote in 2019, and he almost beat the National and the Labor candidate there. He could actually win it the way the polling's going. And wouldn't it be great if we had a tool that actually took people's details and sent it to the parties so that they could volunteer and actually engage with them? I actually built that tool, and so it's called the volunteer funnel. So we don't keep any of your data. You go to the tpaust.com.au. You click volunteer funnel, which was that green button. You click which state you're in, New South Wales, for example. You click exactly which electorate you want. You could say anywhere in New South Wales, for example. And then you click which party you basically want to volunteer for. Let's say you want to volunteer for the Libertarians. And then you say how you want to help. Maybe hand out some how to vote cards, letterbox dropping, hand out a pre-poll, or you can put some other ways. Then you click next, and then you put your details in, and that's it. There's no click here to subscribe. There's none of that crap. We just want to connect good people with candidates. We're not data harvesting. We want people to actually win this election. We want to have some upsets. It's a bit like when Christina Keneally ran in Fowler. It was like a safe Labor seat, and Dai Lee, like a Vietnamese candidate in the area, won the seat. And it's like, how did she win that? We could have a few of those moments, and if we do that, forget about the Senate. We might actually win the balanced power in the lower house, and if we do that, that could be really powerful. And so I think 100% people should be volunteering and engaging more with it. Yeah.
Stuart Bond had his launch at the Cali Hotel, I think, as well. So he's a great patriot. There's no doubt about that. But maybe tell us a bit more about Ben Britton, Joel, because I think there'd be a lot of people out there that would be really wanting to get behind him, but we don't really know a lot about him other than the fact that Dutton turfed him out.
Yeah, look, Stuart is an absolute spear thrower. He's someone that I would say is a fair income Aussie. He swears way too much. He's been on my show a number of times. I've filmed about 6 hours of content with him in this studio. He's a freedom fighter. He used to run for the United Australia Party. He got sick of how Clive treated the candidates in the last election, so he went and joined the Liberals again to try and reform it from the inside. He won pre-selection, and then he got kicked out for saying what we all believe to be true, which is maybe it's not a good idea to force women into frontline roles in combat roles. And that's what he essentially said. And he's a really good guy that he answered yes pretty much to all the policy matrix things that I showed you before, all the answers. So he's right there aligned with us. In many ways, he doesn't belong in the Liberal Party in its current form, but he's a really good guy. He's a straight shooter, and if he wins, I can't wait to see him in the Parliament. He'd be phenomenal to watch. He'd probably be one of our best lower house MPs, if not the best lower house MPs in the lower house. A
So
bit
he's
like
now
how,
running as an independent.
yeah, he's running as an independent. He said, you know what, stuff it. I'm going down and you're going to have to bury me, basically.
Geez, I'd love
Yeah.
to get him on the show, John.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the go, Woody. We need to track a few of these people down and get their names out.
We do
Yeah,
indeed. We're
this is a
changing
great
the
one. I mean,
agenda
Stuart
too.
Bonds is phenomenal. And I mean, there's some really great guys out there.
There's some
Yeah.
video going around of someone destroying his
Yeah,
ball flutes.
yeah.
I
Uh,
was gonna say I went out of my way to make a graphic in for the Hunter Valley, which shows you and we got we took an ad out in the Hunter Times, I think it's called, the newspaper out there, just over the weekend, and I think it stirred a bit of the Labor Party people. It's basically Albo pulls Rapacooli's strings. Rapacooli, for those of you that don't know, because you're not in the Hunter, that's the local member there. Just to remind you, the Hunter is a heavy coal town. They don't like Albo. They don't like his climate change policies. So they have this sort of, Ned Kelly looking guy, but behind it, it is Albo pulling the strings with regards to climate policy and everything. So we took an ad out, we put it in the paper because we really want to see us win the Hunter. It's one of the most winnable seats for a Freedom candidate in the country.
yeah, always staunch Labor. I remember years gone by, I was a resident in the Hunter Valley, and it was always staunch Labor. The coal miners, they never flinched, Labor to the core. But a lot of
Mm.
them are rolling in their graves now.
Yeah. I mean, all the coal, it's basically being phased out by 2035. So these guys are going to be out of the job very soon.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not going to be, oh yeah, we'll help you transition to renewables. It's not that simple to transition, guys. It's not that simple.
Joel, Comrade Prime Minister, a book by Trevor Loudon. We interviewed Trevor on the program last week, a very insightful interview. And based on everything he was saying, another Albanese term would be an absolute disaster for Australia.
Yep. I've been saying it since October. Um, Albo, it's looking like it's going to be a Labor minority government in the lower house. And the only way we stop it is in the Senate. And that's why it's so important that we get the vote out. We need to get at least one Freedom senator in every state. And we need to make sure that we win a senator either for the Freedom parties or for the Liberal in the ACT and in the Northern Territory. If we don't do that, we're going to see exactly what happened last time, where we're relying on the goodwill of Jackie Lambie and David Pocock in order to pass legislation. Now, the good news is David Pocock actually left Climate 200. He left them and he's not with them anymore. So he's going to be a bit of a independent senator, but I would much rather someone like Antic or Rennick or Malcolm Roberts holding the keys to the balance of power,
Absolutely.
So we need people to get active.
We can't afford to lose Malcolm Roberts or Jared Rennick. It'd be a crying shame if we did. Speak to the whole Jackie Lambie camp. What's going on there? And is she concreted into that seat, into that electorate?
She's a funny girl. She's a lovely lady. We can work with her on a lot of things. Like, for example, she did vote for the Royal Commission into veteran suicides, which we'd all agree on. But the problem is there are other bills like going after Elon Musk, and she says she wants to jail Elon Musk and her, just grow up and take the jab. I mean, that's the other side of her. And so it's a bit all over the place. We can unseat her in Tasmania. The most winnable party to get that spot is One Nation in Tasmania. But again, it doesn't help when we've got trumpeter patriots not even putting them on the Senate ballot in Tasmania. It's frustrating to watch.
It'll be interesting to get Malcolm's take on that when we interview him on Thursday, John, I think.
Yeah, well, look, my view on it, Hoodie, I mean, I hope they vote for Pauline's daughter.
Yep.
Let's give her a go. Jackie Lambie has not impressed me one bit. I mean, she's all over the veteran stuff because it gets her a few votes, and that's where I think it starts and finishes. I haven't got any time for it all. I think she was completely out of order in relation to the vaccine mandates, and she showed her true colours there. And there's no way in the world I could support her one bit. I think she can go and get stuffed.
Yeah, said in true Club Grubbery fashion. And Johnny, who can ever forget the Ring of Steel comments?
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, you've got nowhere to walk back from, John, Joel, when you make comments like that. I mean, that shows a politician who doesn't have social situational awareness, because you paint yourself so far into a corner. You've got to be very confident about your facts, and she obviously wasn't, as history is proving.
Mm. Can I say, in Queensland, we might get two Freedom Senators up, and we kind of need to get two Freedom Senators up. So on our cards, we have the unusual situation where we've got two phenomenal incumbent senators, Gerard Rennick and Malcolm Roberts.
Yeah.
And it was a real doozy trying to pick which one to put first, because we've never had, in 9 elections, we've never had this problem. And normally we just do what we do in Russell Broadbent's seat, where it's great member of parliament. We want to see him serve again. You know, he's top of the ballot. We don't even think about it. That's a rule. So in Queensland, we had to do a poll in October, and then we did another poll last week, and Gerard Rennick won that hands down out of the Turning Point Australia audience. In October, it was 55% Rennick, 45% Malcolm Roberts. And since then, obviously, we've had a few votes, like the Hate Crimes Amendment Bill. It's completely changed. It was more like 80, 85% Rennick and 15%, 20% Roberts. And so that doesn't mean that Malcolm Roberts has to lose. We could actually get both of them elected. Queensland is the only state that it was the highest voting state with regards to the no vote. We got 70% of the state that voted no to the voice. And it also has a combined freedom vote. Off the top of my head, I think it's 17%. So we have, in order to get a senator up, you need 14%. So we know we've got one, but can we get a second? It's possible. And the only way we're going to do it is for people that back this senator or that senator to put their differences aside, to go and volunteer for one of these great senators, because both of them back each other on the how to vote cards, and to hand out how to vote cards. Better yet, hand the Turning Point Australia how to vote cards out, because we have them as 1 and 2. And that will actually give us the best chance of getting them both in. I think we're losing something if we lose one of them. I really do. And the only way we can sort of do that is if people use our volunteer funnel, they go volunteer for these freedom parties, and they actually hand out how to vote cards in pre-poll. Pre-poll started today. So votes are already being cast. And that's how we get both of them elected. And we kind of need it. We kind of need to get 2 up.
Man, voting now I think is crazy. With the situation's so fluid, so fluid. You know, I'm going to wait till the very last minute when I vote. It's just crazy. Now, speak to the logic, if you'd like to call it that, of people who are saying we're not voting. I mean, I just can't get my head around that. I mean, for that whole scenario to work, you need 80% of the population not to vote to even have that look like it could do anything. And then what does it do? Call for a fresh election, and who are you going to run? There's so many nuances around that whole argument. It's really hard to get your head around. What's your thoughts?
Look, at the end of the day, your silence is consent. Your silence is consent. So if you don't show up and vote, there's nothing in the Constitution which says that if 20% of the electorate votes and 80% don't, that the vote is void. There's nothing like that. If only 100 people in the election vote, the election is valid. That's how a constitution is, if we want to talk about facts. Now, we had a similar bunch of people say not to vote in the referendum. And we ended up winning that referendum, hands down, despite all odds. 60 to 70% didn't vote for Anthony Albanese's voice proposal. Now, they got a lot of egg on their face when they said not to vote in that one. So some people might say, yeah, Joel, we won the voice, and they still did all this state stuff. Well, that means we've got to fight them at local elections. We have to fight them in every state election, and we've got to fight them in every federal election and the referendums. This isn't like you show up one day, you vote on the referendum, and that's it. These are communists. These are cultural communists. They want to take over our country and demonize the Anzacs, our Christian founding documents, and everything that made this country great. We have to meet them everywhere they are, on social media, in the culture wars, in everything, because that they are just more committed. To be frank, I get it. People are busy. They've got kids. They're raising the country, and they're paying for the bills. But guys, we got 2 weeks, and there is a shortage of volunteers right now. Like, we need to get out there and actually take our country back, and that's what it looks like. It's handing out how to vote cards for your favorite senator, for your favorite Freedom Party candidate, and they're starving. They're starving for candidates right now, and for volunteers rather, and that's how we change this. But the left are showing up, the Teals are showing up, the Greens, Labor, they're paying their volunteers. We actually have to show up. Otherwise, you can't argue when we get the result we get. So look, boycotting the ballot is one of the most stupid things I've ever seen. It's literally ceding the ground to the left-wing parties, to the purse, to the taxes, gives them the right to indoctrinate your kids how you want. Don't come and complain to Graham and to John Larder when the election result goes the way that it does. Don't come and complain. When bills are being passed, like the misinformation bill, where you get thrown in jail for hate speech laws, where they're taking more of your money out of your bank account with the bail-in laws. That's what's at stake here. And I think people need to understand that before they go and say, oh, it's all rigged. It's a lazy way of thinking. It's a lazy way of thinking.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, tell me, since you raised the subject of parties that told people not to vote in the referendum, Australia won. Where are they fielding any candidates at all?
No, no. I mean, they ran in like 5 elections or something, and they came up short. So I think they didn't like elections. They felt that they weren't getting the vote that they deserved. Graham, when I was in the USA, I met someone who actually knew Ricardo before he went crazy. And I explained to them the whole situation. I said, look, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think that there's a bit of war PTSD. I think he's frustrated with the electoral system and he's lashing out. That's what I think. And he's got, his wife has MS and he's homeschooling his kids and whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy agreed with me. This is a former military guy, a contractor. And he said, I knew Bosey. He was a sharp guy. But from what you've said, Joel, I agree with you. I think that there's, this is someone you got to have empathy for, not someone that you need to rationalize and understand where he's coming from. I think that Bosey has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, and it's a shame to see. I used to think he was the guy, and now we just see him lashing out, and it's sad. It is very sad to see, and I'm not saying that because he needs my empathy. I'm saying that because there was a lot of potential there, and he squandered it, and he lost a lot of people when he told them not to vote in the referendum. A lot of people that I met. One lady, I remember meeting her in Five Dock, and she said, yep, I'm a huge fan of Bosey and whatever. And she's one of the only people that came up to me and donated a silver coin to me. Lovely lady. And I said, yeah, but what was he doing with the referendum? And her face said it all. She was like, yeah, I don't know. He was wrong, kind of wrong on that one. And I'm like, this is a man we need to have empathy for. And when he's ready to apologize to the people he's burnt over the last 5 years, and when he's ready to actually take the country back in a way that actually makes sense, he can be welcomed back. But there's a lot of apologizing to do, and there's a lot of burnt bridges he's got to mend. And I could sit here and name all the names. So look, that's where I'm at peace. I'm at peace with him with regards to that.
Put me on that list, Joel. Put me up near the top of that list. I mean, the guy was parallel touring me in Western Australia a couple of days ahead of me, telling everybody not to come to our Community of Unity tour. Um, but I've also done a lot of counselling work or a lot of mentoring with veterans who suffer from PTSD. And the worst thing you can say to a veteran is that they're suffering from PTSD. They'll rip your head off. They will, because that's no way. That's not them. And so, look, yeah, I'm with you. I'm for anybody who's prepared to stand up and say, you know what, I screwed up. I was wrong. Um, or I don't. There's no profit in holding grudges. But it's sad to see because a lot of people were motivated by Ricardo. And where are they going now? What are they doing with their choices now? And a lot of them, hate on people like me and John. They hate us. Um, but the truth is, where's all their energy going to be spent now in this situation when Bosie is no longer around to influence them?
Yeah, and look, that's the situation. And again, I'm not saying what I'm saying to antagonize the guy. I can take this two ways. Most people that see Bosie's stuff, they say, "Oh, he's controlled opposition. He's this, he's that." I'm sorry, guys. That is not that in the time that I spent with him, the 6 or 7 years I spent with him, the amount of spaghetti meals he made with me at his home, the mentoring, the advice, that's not what I saw. That is not the man I knew. He has changed. And that is not something that I say because, I'm trying to say, oh, he's terrible now. The guy is in there somewhere, but he's changed. And it's a tragedy because I really think he had a lot to play, a big role to play in this country and getting it back on track. He's very knowledgeable. He's multilingual. He reads his stuff. I mean, if you anyone that's read his book, I've got his book behind me. There's some great stuff in there about the founding of America and leadership. But that is not who we've got in front of me now. It's like, where is the Ricardo Bosi? That's what it's like. And so I saw that progression, that regression over time. And it's out of love I'm saying this to his followers. It's that I get it. I get it, guys. No one helped him more in the early years than I did. No one. And so when I see what's going on, it's a tragedy. And that's why I'm basically putting an olive branch to you guys and saying, guys, um, I'm not saying he's controlled off. I don't think he is. I think this is a guy that doesn't know actually how to make a difference in this country. And it's a real shame. It's
I
a real
think
shame because
there's a lot of rhetoric in social media about people perceived as being control opposition. To be honest with you, I don't get that. Even with people who disagree with me, I don't get that controlled opposition thing. I know there's controlled opposition, but it's not at the upper levels. It's not in the people who've got the profiles. It's in the people who get in and form little social media pages and they plant seeds of dissent and they always act under pseudonyms and you never know who they are. You never see a photo. There are government agents who are paid money to do that just to destabilise. I think that's where the control opposition is. But
that definitely happens.
I can't think of anybody who has stood toe to toe against me in the last 5 years, which I've hated. I don't like it because I see we're all in the same trench. It shits me, to be honest with you. Excuse the French. But I can't really hang that label on anyone. I don't know about you, John.
Yeah, no, well, look, I think there's some scoundrels, that we'd love to see in jail. Look at Dan Andrews. I mean, he's a bloke that just lied on the run, and now we know he did. I mean, how there's not some criminal inquiry into that bloke, with what we've learnt in the last few days through that FOI. He just made it up.
You could solve the Victorian deficit, Joel, if you put Daniel Andrews on trial and charged everyone who wanted to be there $100 a seat to go into the court. You could fix the deficit in Victoria overnight. I'd pay.
Yeah.
I'd find the money somewhere. I'd sell my sheepdog to get to have a seat at that event. I just anyway.
What do you think's going on in the States at the moment, Joel, in regards to RFK and some heavy hitting in regards to these vaccines? I see today he's launched something about banning food colorings, but I mean, people have been on the edge of their seat thinking it'll happen or it'll happen. These mRNA vaccines will end up stopping, but there's been crickets.
I tell you what, guys, something weird's going on with that. I haven't been following it as closely as I have because obviously we've had the WA election, then the federal election, so I've been a bit tied up. But yeah, it seems like they've hit a speed bump for the last 3 months. And I'm confused. I'm very confused. And I think some great people like Candace Owens are calling it out. They're saying that, hey, RFK, what's going on? You said you built a following off this. Why aren't you following through on what you said? I only want you to say what, to uphold the values you said you stood for. That's it. Your words. And so no, it's unusual. It's unusual. But I'm not going to proclaim that I know exactly what's going on. Candace has her view of things. Now that I mentioned her name, I should probably tell people that we're going to court in I think the first or second week of May. So we're finally going to find out where we stand with her visa to get her to Australia. But maybe we can get her out here to tell us what she thinks going on.
Now, you owe us an interview with Candace Owens, remember?
I'm a man of my word. As soon as we have clarity, we figured we shouldn't keep selling tickets as long as we don't know where the visa stands. So we put it on hold. We pushed the whole thing back to January next year. People that have been asking for refunds, they're getting refunds. But with regards to the High Court, it's on I think it's the 6th or the 8th of May that is where she's in the High Court. So it's just after the election. And once we have clarity on that, then we can be like, all right, interviews. Here you go, guys. Because it's just they did not want her to come out before the federal election. They did not want to get egg on their face. And they did a similar thing to what's his name, Donald Trump Jr. When we were bringing him out, we had the referendum going on, and it was like, delay, put it off, and we were going to bring him out just before the referendum, for the voice. And so, look, the Labor Party do this, the Liberal Party do this. They did it to Djokovic. Alex Hawke did this to Djokovic, and it's not something the New Zealanders do. I mean, the New Zealanders were happy to have Candace over. It's like, why is it that people can easily travel from Sydney to New Zealand, to Auckland, but we can't actually bring a tour of someone that's allowed to speak in New Zealand, but not in Sydney? Is she really that dangerous, this mother of three? It makes me so angry, John.
Oh no, it's mad.
Can I go back to, sorry, John?
I go for it, Hoodie.
Can I go back to the whole RFK mRNA situation and give you a silly old man's view of what I think's really going on?
Shoot.
I believe Donald Trump is the king of Operation Warp Speed, and I think the ego will not allow the man to admit that those mRNA shots were deadly and not in everyone's best interest. Because if they pull this off, I have a feeling he's going to have a lot of egg on his face, and he's not going to like it because he does not like egg on his face. So I think there's an inherent headwind from within, and I think it's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, why not?
But RFK has, look, disappointed a lot of people with his stand on various issues, and I'm talking about Gaza. And, that's an issue that people should be talking about. We should be discussing that whole thing, but there's a reticence to do that anywhere. I think he's sullied his copybook a little bit on that regard. And also, I met Del Bigtree, which was a wonderful experience in Phoenix, Arizona, and we hit it off really well for the few minutes we were together, as I did with Charlie Kirk. Now, there's an interesting individual. Charlie Kirk is an amazing guy. And he and I even got a hug off him, Joel, on stage. And as I walked out on stage to sit down on a couch with him and have a chat, he said, I love this guy. This guy's the real deal. That's what he said about me. And then he gave me a hug. He didn't do that with the other people. So I'm going to cherish that little moment. But I want to say this, that a lot of people heard that I was to be interviewed by Del Bigtree, and hopefully that may still go on. But there's a lot of influential people in Australia and in the USA who say that Del's a bit on the nose at the moment. Geez, you're a diplomat, Joel.
Oh, no, honestly, Graham, I actually didn't know much about Del Bigtree until you mentioned him. There's that many people that are doing things in America, and that's what's great about America. Their talent pool is enormous. I actually didn't know about Del Bigtree until you. I'm sure I've seen what he's been up to, but I actually don't know what he stands for, where he's actually changed. I just haven't followed him enough. Do you mind elaborating on like where has he sort of strayed with things?
Well, he's right up in the upper echelons of Make America Healthy Again, the Maha organization.
Oh,
Michelle and I were invited to San Diego as he ran a conference on autism, which I believe was fantastic. Um, but his politics has sort of steered him out of favor with a lot of people who would normally have backed him. And I can't say much more than that, other than a lot of people who I put stock in over in America and here in Australia told me, um, I wouldn't lose any sleep over the fact that that interview may not come off. But having said that, I probably shot myself in the foot. But I don't care. I just want to be transparent. There's a lot of stuff going on in American politics at the moment that's really bizarre. And I was only there for 3 weeks. A lot of people I thought would be very set in their ways are starting to change their points of view. And so, I mean, the way I see it, there was a shake-up globally that needed to happen, and Donald Trump was the explosion that caused that shake-up. I think we would love to see someone like Jared Rennick form an organisation to go through government expenditure, a Doge, if you will. And I think he would be the man to do it, and he would love to do it. He would cherish a role like that. But we desperately need that because way too much money is being wasted on stupid causes. Don't know. All I will
yeah.
say this about the US, they have a lot more freedom than we do, Joel. That's evident everywhere you go. Unless you talk about Israel and Gaza.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I don't share Charlie's opinion on that. But can I just say, take a moment to say, how cool is it, Graham, that you're, and I just realized this, that you're sort of when you first came out after that first video, your first interview was with me on camera. And for Turning Point Australia, that was the very first Turning Point Australia thing I actually did. And now you've gone all the way up and you've gone to see Charlie. I haven't even seen Charlie in person. I've only chatted to like his team guys and everything, like Tyler.
Oh,
And
do you
so I
want me
think
to
that's
arrange
really
it for you?
awesome.
I can set you up with Charlie. That's not a problem. Charlie and I are like that. Um, no, the way I got to have any minor impact on Charlie Kirk was because I didn't grovel all over him like everyone else was. I was in a green room with him for a couple of hours. He was coming in, and everyone was groveling over him, wanting to kiss him, and I just sat in a corner, Joel, and I was flicking through a magazine, and it got to a stage about 8 minutes before he was called out to go on stage to conduct his panel. He looked across at me, and I stood out because I wasn't over there licking his boots. And he just said to me, "Who are you and what's your story?" And when I told him, he said, "Ah, man." And as he was being dragged out on stage, he leaned back over his monitors and said, "I want to talk to you more. I need to talk to you more." And I said, "Mate, I'm available. Just, if you want to talk, talk. If you don't, it doesn't matter." And then we had a wonderful interaction on stage. It went about 8 or 10 minutes, but um, nobody could get near him after that because he had about 30 bodyguards around him and they hustled him out of the venue very quickly. Look, I found the whole experience really interesting. I really did. But I wanted to, I really think that humility is a stamp of where we go with all of this stuff. I mean, I went in there completely knowing my place in the zoo, mate. I was this guy, this unknown guy from Australia. I'm with all these hobnobs, and they're all rallying to try and get more and more speaking time on stage. And I just think, no, no, I'm just going to sit back in the corner and pretend I don't exist for a while. And believe it or not, that's how you get noticed more, I reckon.
Oh, that's really cool. I when I was over there in February for the CPAC trip over there in to Washington DC, I was blown away by everything from the culture at the top down to the bottom. It was a different world. I mean, I don't know if I said this to you guys on the phone, but even when they're pouring you a scotch, like a Johnny Walker, with no ice, just neat, a double Johnny Walker neat. They bring it out and it's like a quadruple or five, shots worth, all the way up to meeting people at the height of politics. They're just so like they've got an abundance mindset. It's very different to Australia. You make a video in Australia and you get dragged down and attacked and is this and that and I'm like, wow, that's why we're losing. Ah, okay. And this is partly what we've done with the light newspaper coming into the leadership. It's been bringing that mindset to an organization and making sure that this thing survives. I think all content creators, they need to bring that mentality from the US, bring it here, and have that abundance mindset rather than the tall poppy syndrome mindset. That's what I really noticed culturally.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, the whole tall poppy thing, Johnny, is just it just brings us all down as a country. Nobody wants to stand up because they're sick and tired of getting their knees chopped out from underneath them, don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I just wish they'd hold a few more of these events at a winery or at a malt whiskey factory or something. I'm sure I like sitting in the seats there.
Hey, for John, for the Sydney event for Nigel Farage, we had a bar tab, a
That's
thousand people in
exactly
the room.
right.
It
That's the
lasted
sporting
2 seconds,
event.
but we had a bar tab. You could get you could get some alcohol. So we're going the right way. That's what we want to do.
That's what we want to do. See, Hoodie only had the non-alcohol stuff, but there was very good wine there at that event, and we were privileged to actually sit with Nigel and Alan Jones, and it was a magnificent night. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
All you guys wanted to do was drink the red wine, and all I wanted to do was have a hamburger. Um, so anyway, we digress. But
Well, Hoodie sent me something last night, Joel, that apparently we're getting nominated for some sort of gold Logie or something, Club Grubbery, or some media event or something. Is that right?
no, I don't think we are. What is it? The A&R Awards on the Gold Coast in July. Are you going to that, Joel?
Don't. Oh, hang on. Is that the Jamie McIntyre thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going to that. It's in like July or something.
I think I,
Um,
I think I got invited by somebody and I just didn't. I had something else. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's look, the date's moved a bit. If you can make it, guys. I think it'd be great. Especially, I think it's important after the election to have because the conversation up there is going to be like, this was the election result. How can we move forward in a conciliatory way? I think it's important you guys are there. But again, I'm not sure what the nature of the event is. I've been invited to go and speak. I'm not sure what I'll speak about. Maybe I'll do what Graham does, just fang it. Um,
Well, I don't generally get invited to these things other than you, Joel, because I think they're worried about their bar tab.
You're notorious, are you?
The only way I'd go is if Johnny and I went together. I wouldn't go by myself. I mean, I live near here, but no, we're Club Grubbery. It's Hoodie and Johnny. It's always been that way, and it'll never change. And yeah, I don't know. All these awards things, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're good. I don't know.
It's good.
Oh,
It's an opportunity to meet people and to, the whole point is the reason I went to CPAC is there were so many people in that sphere, in the political sphere, that were in Washington. So it was the best time to network. So I want to meet some of the most competent people in Australia, many of which are going there, and it's a good opportunity to debrief after the election, trade notes. How can we move forward in a smart way? Hopefully, we've got by some miracle Gerard Rennick and Malcolm Roberts both there as well, and we can talk about maybe how we can unite the parties. These are the conversations I want to have up there, and that's what I see out of these events. It's not so much, oh, we can win an award. I know, none of us here that doesn't appeal to any of us here, but yeah, that's just about how can we, go back to retirement, eh, Graham?
well, yeah. The most beautiful thing anyone presented me in the last 4 years was a World War One Australian Army bugle. In the people of Ballarat presented me with an amazing bugle that's all dented and battered. It was restored and it blew the charge. It set a lot of freedom-loving Aussies to their death, and I cherish that. That's worth more than anything that I've been given in the physical sense, if you know what I mean.
Wow, that thing's worth two swords. I need to get my hands on one of those.
Oh,
That's amazing.
Go and get it, Hoodie. I
it's
tell you what, an upcoming event. I tell you, as many Australians as possible should be going over to Geneva for this World Health Organization, Shamozzle. I mean he's got his Graham Kennedy underpants on there.
Yeah, I didn't want you to see that. People out there think people
No
out
one
there
saw it.
think we're sophisticated, Joel.
No one. Yeah. Hey, I'm wearing my boxes too. No, I'm
Yeah,
joking.
right.
I'm wearing suit pants.
Underneath your suit trousers. You're such a. Anyhow,
Nah, nah, I'm messing with you.
isn't that beautiful? Now that's got the grip that was sewn on by the trooper who was issued that, and that's been on the Western Front. And that grip has got it's hand stitched canvas. And when I think of what was going through that trooper's mind when he was called to blow the charge, it brings a tear to my eye. It really does. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
I want one.
You can
It's
pick one up
gorgeous.
in an antique shop for about $80, but to me, that's priceless. That's
Yeah,
that item says everything that we're fighting for. So there you go. I'm
100%.
I'm surrounded by all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's our heritage. These things, these trinkets remind me of what on earth we're doing in this battle. You know, we never get to ride it. We never got to ride a charging steed with a sword drawn into battle.
Mm.
There's a whole bunch we can do in the here and now. I've got my dad's medals hanging up on the wall, and every day I come into this room to do Club Grubbery with John, and I'm reminded of just how important what we're doing is and why we should keep it simple and keep it straight and keep it strong.
And Anzac Day coming up in 3 days' time too. So
Yep,
yeah, very
yep. And I think we should do something, John, on Anzac Day, and
sure.
in honour of those old fellas that gave up everything. Charlie, it's always good to have you on. Um, we've got to we've got to live in a country where we don't have to endure an apology 50 years after an injustice. We've seen it happen with thalidomide. We've seen it happen with the stolen generation. What are they going to do in 20 years' time? Are they going to have an apology to all the people who suffered from the infected blood scandal? Are they going to have an apology for all the vaccine injured? Are they going to have an apology for whatever else that they've done? I mean, we've seen the pelvic mesh scandal. All these scandals need to be dealt with while they're scandals, not decades after the event. And I think Australians don't have any credibility as long as we say that's okay because it didn't affect me. That's what I reckon. So I think we've got to be the measure of who we say we are in these issues and make sure that people get justice in this country because there hasn't been an awful lot of it in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for having me on and
Mhm.
for the opportunity. And hopefully we can have a chat after the election and we can look at some of the positive news of where things went well, where we could improve. But no, I really appreciated you inviting me on and having a chat. It's been way too long. I can't remember the last time we had a chat.
I
What
think
you're doing, Joel, it's so important. And largely goes unrecognised. There's a lot of work I know you put in, and people wouldn't realise, but behind the scenes, you're always very supportive of what we're doing. And from day one, since we were found in this mess, you're the first to interview us, and you've been there at every step when Mac was there and Alex, you've been there from day one, and this government, this Albanese government, has been absolutely gross in its management of people that you've tried to bring here to Australia to improve the situation and tell the truth and set facts and spark debate. And I think back to the mess with Donald Trump Jr. and now with um,
Candace Owens.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
disgraceful,
The
absolutely
Don Jr.
disgraceful.
one was sorry, the Don Jr. one was a real kick in the nuts. Because we brought Nigel out, no problems.
Hmm.
And then Don Jr. was like, then we had the whole no refunds thing. So I've been drained of funds, like $200,000 out of what I've been doing from my own pocket, just to make sure that my audience didn't get affected. We've got a cost of living which is due to COVID, the amount of inflation. So things are already bad for people. And then this gets lumped on. I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to let that drag me or what I'm doing, my reputation in the dirt. And so, look, they want us to fail. They definitely want us to fail, and it's a huge shame. But it is what it is.
It is, mate. And anyway, I think Johnny must have run out of power or something. But in the throes of everything, mate, I'd like to close with a prayer if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Lord Father in heaven, we need honour and integrity, and we need it in bucket loads. And Father God, we just pray that you will give us the wherewithal to be the men you would have us be, to stand in your service and to follow close in behind your banner, listening to your will for our lives. This is the great Southland of the Holy Spirit. We know that you love it, and we know that you love all of the people in it, whether they agree with us or you or not. So guide and lead us in integrity to do the things that we must do, that you would have us do, to stand as a nation once again. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. God bless you, Graham.
You too, mate, and much appreciate your time. And Johnny Larder would say, you just couldn't make this stuff up. To all of you who keep following us, that's him messaging me now. Thank you so much. This is a great country because you live in it, and don't forget that. And what you did yesterday got you to today. So we'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. Until then, bye for now. Thanks, Joel.
See you guys.